I took the brunt of the fall. Sorry.
Am I starting? John? All right, so this is the July 17th meeting of the Communications Committee. Call to order. The roll call is myself, Larry Kane,
and John Anderson's here. And that's usually what we do, and then,
Okay,
and missing right now is, Counselor Doherty.
okay. Obviously, it's my first time as chair for this committee, and John graciously agreed to kind of run this meeting, particularly since I don't have much of the background on the items on the agenda. So if there's any public comment, none here, but is there some online at all?
No.
Okay, and none online, then we would go for approval of the minutes.
So I move to approve them.
I would second. Any discussion?
Nope.
So we call the vote for approval. All in favor? None opposed? And then, John, I think I'd let you take over from here.
Yep, so on the rest of the agenda, this is kind of our standard agenda, so we've been asking staff to come and provide general updates, so they'll do that, and then we talk about Counselor Corner Live today, and then we'll discuss the sequencing of Counselor Corner articles for who we want to assign for the next batch. And then I'm assuming Allison, you'll review the feedback for the survey. make
I
sure we are
can,
there.
yeah, speak to that, queue it up.
So Allison, do you want to give
Yep.
updates?
Okay, so for staff updates, the past few months we've been talking about. Now that the leader isn't in print, we're looking at other opportunities, either for print and just in general to get the word out, on town topics. And so one thing that we had started doing is, connecting with Kate with Scarborough Living, the magazine. And, we worked out a partnership where the town will have a 4-page spread in the Scarborough Living magazine, and it'll be a standalone, like it's a different paper type and different size than the rest of the magazine, so it's like set apart from it in the centerfold. So we're gonna try this out and see how it goes, and the first issue with this new concept is coming out in August, so we'll see how that goes, but I just wanted to show you guys that this is what it's gonna look like inside. So this is all a new concept for us, but it's just another opportunity. Typically, we have social media posts, we have news posts on our website, and we have the town newsletter, and those are all shorter form. Sometimes we have articles that go out. We still do the regular weekly article in the online version of the Leader. So this is trying to capture longer term, or like it's supposed to capture like for the summer season, the summer edition. So I kept it not so time sensitive, but just more generally about Scarborough, and thinking about who the readers are. That's going to be locals, but also people who maybe are in town and just would pick it up. So we have a town manager message, some program overviews, a highlight on, I tried to think of topics, like this page is on transportation being a big topic in town. Some upcoming road work. We do a public safety feature, a couple engagement opportunities, just plugging the community survey and the school building project on the ballot. And then the last page is upcoming events. So 4 pages, and it's just kind of a trial, and I'm glad to have a template, that this is just something that we can work off of. And see where it goes. And we haven't committed to any sort of, she does 6 issues a year, so we haven't committed to that per se, but that opportunity stands. And this cost about, just to, yeah, recap, this cost about $1,500. So I know we upped our budget for this year, and so this is just one avenue, but yeah, up to $7,000, I think, right?
Yeah, do you guys have plans for what you're thinking for the next issue? Because my thoughts, and I'm interested, Larry, if you have thoughts, like based on the conversations this week, I'm wondering if we have the next 4-page focus on growth and not just like make it more about what's been happening, where we are, that we have a transportation study, that we have an open space plan, like really to help use it as an education vehicle to just like show what we are doing around growth management, just to help use this platform as a way to get more information in people's hands, because I love the fact that it's like a 4-page thing, and again, even if it were like just some basic definitions like TIF, what is a TIF? What is a CEA? What is affordable housing as we define it, just so that it's just a good document, and then it maybe even lives in perpetuity that we can have as a reference document too for things.
Kate, the editor, was also saying the next one's coming out in October, and it could be a good opportunity before the November election if we wanted to do any sort of educational material, yeah. But yeah, that's a good point too, of like thinking of the insert as around maybe like a certain topic, like in that case, like a voter guide or the growth as the topic, and using it as more of like related content to that.
Think that's the exact right timing for a fairly significant effort towards the school
Yeah.
referendum.
Is the school committee or the SBAC communications committee, are
They're
they?
not aware of this like I didn't talk to them about it, but that's a good reminder. Cause when Kate and I were talking about it, we're like, okay, cause she didn't know like if I was planning on doing another insert for that one, and she was saying like, if she's including an article on that in the magazine, like who is that coming from? Like who would be writing that, and not to like, have it be written by her in particular, or
Yeah.
maybe it is coming from them, or maybe it's this 4-page spread, but
Yeah.
could be good to give them
Yeah.
an opportunity or work with them.
So in addition to this insert, you mean they would also maybe run an article, more of an informational article?
Exactly, because I submit like a day in the life article. I do like a staff contribution, a town contribution to the magazine regularly, and so this is just like on top of that. So we're talking about like, does it belong as just an article in the magazine, or should we do an insert related to that?
Both.
Yeah,
Well, I
and they
feel
can
like
serve different purposes.
I like the idea of the insert again, just because it's just like, I think of the insert as, oh, I like this, I wanna keep this, because I
Yeah.
read the magazine, I don't need it. but
Yeah,
This has information that's good for reference or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Alison, what's the distribution and the, how do they get it out? Is it,
yeah, she has sites all throughout town. There's like Hannaford and like all the.
and it's just a giveaway? I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
free,
Okay.
magazine, just like in the
Very
stands.
Out here, yeah,
Yeah,
when you walk out,
Okay.
oh, there are some in the clerk's office, yeah. I can't remember how many she prints. I wanna say like 7,000 or something.
Okay. Well, that's kind of comparable to what the leader was doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the only difference is like it's not going in people's mailbox.
Right,
They would have
absolutely,
to
yeah.
like go through the act of picking up, but you bring up a good point, like you don't know that it's there,
Yeah.
so like a lot of people are missing it, but. This will be something for us now, like at Summerfest, for example, we can have a stack of these, like
Hmm.
it's. Beneficial for us because we'll have something that we can hand to people.
Oh, that's a great, so you mean even just as a separate standalone giveaway? Yeah.
So that's the other thing I need to think through, the dimension, I had to work with the dimensions of this insert for the magazine, but I want to. Print this and have this around, or unless you think it would be better to have the actual magazine and to be just like knowing that it's in the magazine on nicer paper or something.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be better outreach to be passing out the magazine or to just print this 4 pages out?
I think it would be best to print it, but since we're partnering with Scarborough Living on this, I feel like it would be good for us to hand out the magazine.
Yeah.
I feel like we're partnering.
Yeah.
Even though we're
Yeah.
paying, and it one, it gets her magazine out more so people know about it, but then we can highlight the insert
Yeah,
for the town stuff.
yeah, because if I'm just printing it, it's just like this, you
Yeah.
know, like stapled, I mean, in color.
It-
But I could also pursue seeing what it would be to get it printed somewhere, like on glossy paper or
Do
something.
you know when this is gonna get printed, or has it already been printed?
I don't, it's sometime around now and it should
Okay.
be ready by the beginning of August.
Cause what could be cool is for the summer fest, we'll have a table, and so if she could give us like a big stack.
Yeah,
And we could talk about it and say, hey.
Yeah.
Leader went away, but you're gonna start seeing these in this magazine.
it'll definitely be ready for
Yeah.
Summerfest.
I don't know if she does a table or anything.
I don't think
There.
she's listed as a vendor, but
Okay.
I just checked the office for you to see if we had any. She drops off a huge stack for us and they're gone.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
but if we can get a stack for. When
Yeah.
we do it, then again, we can talk about it.
I know SBAC Communications is, they're coming up with a lot of different events to have a table at
Mhm.
and give
I can
away
see that list.
info specific to the
Yeah.
tool. But, I'm sure if we collaborate with them and had some of these, we could also
Yeah.
give this, I mean, I think that, I like the idea that it would be an insert in Scarborough Living, but also that it could be a standalone that we.
Yeah, I'll think through some avenues of like how I could make that standalone, because right now I'm curious when it comes back what it'll look like, but it's gonna be stapled into the centerfold.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it'll be like part of the magazine.
But easy to tear out if you want it.
Yeah, I'll have to see, cause that would be cool if we had like a folded booklet essentially.
Right.
But yeah, I can look into that, see if that's an option, if we just did our own with the same thing. Okay, so there's that update, and yeah, I'll be curious, and hopefully you guys look out for it too when the magazine comes out. A couple other quick updates. One, Liam and I have been talking about, what are some ways to kind of clarify some maybe like misinformation or misconceptions around various topics, and something that we've seen other municipalities doing is kind of like putting a face to a name. We're thinking of doing an ask the assistant town manager in our newsletters, and having him be the face that will come up with a question, like a common question, and then have him kind of give an answer and just make it a little segment and make it a little more interesting maybe, and help clarify. So the first one he'll be doing is coming out in the August 1st newsletter, and I think he's gonna do it around like procedures related to like how something goes from ordinance to council, or like how something becomes an agenda item. So I think we have a good amount of talking points and upcoming questions that we can get that going.
I like that too, because it's also kind of adds a little bit of weight that you're kind of getting the person who knows that info best, relaying it as a quote rather than just instructional.
Yeah, and I think it's anytime we can personalize something, it always
Right.
helps get the message out better, because to your point, if we had just had all that information, put it as like a social post, kind of like
Yeah.
will fall flat, but having him answering a question.
So it's a video that you're gonna post?
No, it's just a write-up,
Okay,
yeah.
I think it would be good to do some videos.
Yeah,
of
that
it,
would
though,
be
too,
good,
'cause
and I
feel
can
like-
also see counselors
Yeah,
doing that,
if there's a topic, or even if you guys wrote it up for us.
yeah,
The answer, and we could just be the ones to answer it.
yeah, that's true,
You did a couple of those in the past, right?
Our videos, the videos get a lot more views and hits,
They
I
do.
feel like, than a post.
yeah,
And so April and I have a friendly competition of who can get the most views, and so it's always interesting to see. I mean, if it's an engaging video, they'll take the time to watch. If it's a 1 minute video,
Yeah,
like
make
usually
it
we
quick.
promote. I don't think we did a promotional video for the counselor corner.
mm,
Where
not
we-
this time, no.
Usually we do like a video, and usually they get pretty big hits.
But it'd be cool to kind of do an educational series.
Yeah.
Not as much like event or voting promotion, but.
Yeah. Just like
Yeah.
once a week, post something in this, whatever this, like theme is.
Yeah,
And then usually, again, different people can, record it. Cool.
yeah, and we can kind of line it up with whatever Liam is talking about, maybe do like something working off of that. Another like exploring new avenues is, Liam and I have been talking about potentially doing a podcast, that would be not as much like a full podcast with a bunch of episodes, but more of like a 10-minute audio, I guess it would be give so like last night you guys had your council meeting and there was so much on the agenda, and if there was a way to give you or whoever wanted to on the council a chance to kind of recap either what happened that night or why you voted the way you voted, or maybe give an opportunity to explain what TIFs are in a little bit more detail, or something that came up during the meeting, and just to be able to like, you know, talk through it a little bit more. We're thinking of Liam sitting down with one of you after the meeting and recording, just doing a little back and forth, and then being able to upload that
Yeah.
in the next day or so after it. We thought that might be a good way to get just people more involved if they're not watching the full meeting, or they just kind of want to get the high level points, or they want to learn more about like why a counselor voted the way they did and it wasn't really explained in detail in the meeting. So yeah, that's something else we're exploring.
That could be a cool thing, like if we do the recordings and we have like we have the counselor corner section in the newsletter. If we like had the ability to link or
Yeah.
a QR code, and that way people
Hmm.
can like actually listen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a perfect spot for it. I like that idea. So we have no set plans yet, but just something we've been brainstorming and wanted to gauge the interest of counselors and how what the appetite would be for that.
I'd be happy to do videos, recordings, anything.
Great.
I don't know, Larry, were you comfortable doing that? I know April will want to sign
Yeah,
up
I
for
think
everything.
April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would definitely do that. I really see how much, you put out to the town, and I'm always wondering, how do we involve the community more? And is that an opportunity where, I don't know how you would get them here, but where they could have like a small group discussion, you know, there's some people that come to every meeting, and
yeah,
maybe you involve them,
Mhm.
or something where they're almost able to ask you questions one-on-one or something to that same
Mm,
goal though, but I
Yeah.
think the more,
Or we like collect questions ahead of time, maybe.
right, yeah,
And
that,
open it
that
up for
might be cleaner,
response.
you know, cause it could go sideways,
yeah,
quickly, but
Yeah.
You could put a Dropbox of the council meetings on the way out.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Like anything that came up, so it's more meeting specific.
I think that'd be good because like if people sometimes ask questions at the
Mhm.
podium. And
Yeah, and they
you know,
don't get a chance
Yeah.
for response
Yeah.
necessarily.
I do, yeah. But in terms of print stuff, do we have any update on Forum Weekly, or is that not gonna happen anymore?
I don't, we haven't rolled it out. I think, Liam and I were just, we were kind of thinking of ways of, we just wanted to see how it, like, if it's feasible. So I reached out to the communications staff people for Cape and South Portland, and they seemed interested in the opportunity of, if there was an opportunity for it to expand into more coastal towns. They were open to providing content for it. And then we also wanted to hear feedback on if the business community would be interested in advertising, so we can kind of present that to the Gorham Weekly people. And we haven't heard yet about that,
Right.
but it's not off the table yet, and we still want to follow through with that. I did last week, for example, we had I posted about the Eastern Trail construction happening, so I sent that article to Gorham Weekly to put in their paper, and they were happy to receive it. And she said anytime you have something like that, just send it over. So
Yeah.
keeping that partnership going, but yeah.
So what we've talked about, Larry, is Forum Weekly is really a citizen-run paper where it's like people who live in the community can submit articles, and they have all the infrastructure. Because we lost the leader, we were exploring, is there a partnership opportunity with Cape, South Portland, where they want to partner with us to do this? Because I think the infrastructure is there, but we would need community participation to want to like write an article. And so it's really, the content is driven by people who submit their articles.
Right.
I don't think there's like a formal editor or anything. Or is there?
They do have an editor. She's, I think, the staff person.
Okay. So we're trying to think, was that a way? But that one has the same issue where the distribution doesn't happen at the home. So like that was the biggest thing about the leader, was you got it in your mailbox every week.
Right, yeah,
And so I don't think anything we could do will replace that.
Mhm.
I think that's worth continuing to understand. I think we maybe do the stuff with Scarborough Living as like a real pilot. To see are people actually reading the Scarborough Living stuff, because then they may not read the Forum Weekly stuff, if they're not
Right.
reading the Scarborough Living
Mhm.
content.
Do we know anything about the economics of the leader, meaning was their advertising covering their costs? I mean, I suspect that might have been why they moved away from it, but
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they were experiencing significant loss. I probably I mean, if they were doing it every week and mailing it, I think mailing was probably a big cost, whereas, like the advertising for the Gorham Weekly, they don't have to mail it, so it's just going to the paper.
mhm.
But I do know that it was a financial decision for them.
yeah, I mean, I can't. I don't know what it would cost to try to partner with somebody and make it a mailed piece.
Right.
That if you could ever get that covered with,
Mhm.
I'm assuming these professionals weren't able to keep that going, so.
Yeah.
It'd be naive to think we could, but.
Mhm. Are there any plans for any special inserts when the tax bills go out?
That's a good reminder. We did talk about doing that.
Yeah, like I don't know
Yeah, I
where to go in them, but
prioritize that.
even if it's just like a one page, like, I don't know what the content would be, but I just feel like that's an opportunity where we're already
Definitely.
mailing it.
Yeah.
So we can leverage it, and so I don't know if it's just a reminder to sign up for the newsletter, or do we always do that we might always do that in the bills.
But we'll have a full, I mean, we can fit in a full front and back piece of paper, so I should try to
Yeah,
design something to maximize that.
or maybe even that could be an opportunity to partner with the SBAC if they want one
Yeah.
page. And we.
And we do the other
The
side
other
or
page.
something. Yep. Okay, let me give some thought to that. That's a good reminder, because those go out in mid-August, right? So
Yeah.
I'll need to, yeah,
And John, I want to jump back to where we started, kind of where you were saying about, kind of being able to push out information on specific topics and like the growth story. I think we also kind of need to be tooting our horn too.
Yeah.
It's like part of it would be, here's what we've accomplished
Mhm.
this year,
Yeah.
in the last 12 months or something, because a lot of people aren't paying attention. They don't realize that they
Yeah.
just crabbing that nothing gets done. So I think we need to really focus on what got done.
You know what it reminds me of? You just made me think of at work when we do our annual price increase, we always send a letter of. Here's all the great things that we did, and we're increasing your price.
Right,
So it's like,
yeah.
you wanna remind them like of what their price increase is allowing, and taxes are clearly a point in time where people are like,
yeah.
what am I paying for? So I
That's
love the
true.
idea of making it a list of accomplishments from what they paid for, which you have a lot of that content already where. I know you talk about things that we've invested in, so it might be a really
Yeah.
good way to say. Last year's tax dollars you invested in got these things.
Yeah,
And that might be a good way to just remind them that. You know. They're getting.
What they
benefits and
get.
the town is doing
Right,
things
yeah.
on behalf of their tax dollars.
There's a huge opportunity on the school project as well, because I think we got so caught in. Huge number, to this bond referendum and we didn't really spend any time talking about what you're gonna get. 3 brand new schools and an improved middle school and, and really dig into what are the changes.
Yeah.
But so same idea, is what are you getting for your money?
Yeah,
Try to make it more about value instead of cost.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good idea.
okay, thank you.
Sorry, we're giving you more work. and-
It's helpful, yeah, gives me a good direction. And then lastly, I just wanted to. For staff updates, outreach materials, I need to put more of a plan together about, are we talking about Summerfest or anything like that? No, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I have what you want for outreach materials for tabling and, so that's something that is on my mind and
Yeah.
on my,
I think
plan.
what we've talked about, what would be helpful to have. If we do the Scarborough Living magazine, if it's available, it'd be nice to have a bunch of those to hand out.
Mhm.
Post the postcards for signing up for the e-news. Would be helpful. You always give us the sign up sheet.
Oh, for the
e-news,
news, yeah,
so
like the
capture
clipboard, yeah.
that. Other than that, Larry, I don't know, is there anything, like, so we have this opportunity to have a booth at Summerfest. Um. If that, like this one pager that we just talked about that could go in the tax bill.
Yeah,
If that's ready for Summerfest,
Yeah.
we can say, hey, we just wanna share some of the accomplishments like. That has happened in town on your behalf. And whatever the school wants, even though I'm sure they're gonna probably have their own booth.
They are, I was asking Allison, right, when we started about our, that committee's doing a lot on their own.
Yeah.
So that, I don't even know if they've been written a charge from Board of Ed or not, but that was, we formally ended SBAC two.
Mhm.
And, but I thought it was supposed to start back up as just a communication
Yeah.
effort. So if you want, I can look into that
Mhm.
with, Leroy Crockett and Elizabeth Funstow were the ones
Yeah.
kind of running that, and I think for lots of reasons that these two efforts should be talking to each other to some degree, yeah.
yeah,
But we should, like, if we coordinate early enough, like last year. I like squatted and got there early to like block tabling for other people who wanted to
Mm.
be together. And so. If we could coordinate with them and be like,
Yeah,
we'll take this spot, you take this spot, because again, it'll be nice, like a lot of people might come to us and talk about the school. And it'd be nice to be like, well,
Yeah.
here's the
Yeah.
school people right here, because last year at Summerfest, they got, I don't know if they got there late, but they were in like. The back corner in a bad area where I got the prime real estate, and I felt bad, because I was like, you guys should probably be up here, I'd rather be in the back corner. But again, like sometimes we will be like next to the library. So it's really almost like municipal row or
Right.
something, so if we could coordinate that, that would be good.
You do have someone online with their hand raised. I don't know if you want to take comment.
sure, we've had that before, but we're happy to go back.
This is Matthew Keith, and reason I'm raising my hand now is just real quick, since I'm on the school building communications,
Can you-
stuttering, committee. I definitely will not speak for them, and yeah, I think once you engage in those conversations, more details will arise. But just wanted to confirm that we do have an official charter already made, so that is good to go. And yeah, I think coordination between you all and us would be definitely be a great thing.
Sorry, you were garbled in the beginning. Can you just ID, to give us your name again? Is it Keith?
Matthew Keith.
Yeah, sorry about that. Matthew Keith, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, now much better, yeah. Sorry, Matthew.
Perfect. Did the rest of the things I said make sense, or was it?
I think his YouTube or. Yeah. Oh, there we go.
okay.
He fixed it.
Are you still there, Matthew?
I am still here. I don't know what kind of technical difficulties we're having, but it's all good. I don't want to interrupt too much.
It was at our end, and I appreciate, I knew you were involved with this, Matthew, and so you do have a charge from Board of Ed?
Yeah, that's the main thing I just wanted to communicate so you knew. We have a charge. They're going to amend it tonight. I think at least propose an amendment, but it won't really have any impact on the larger piece. So the charter is approved already and ready to move forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then Matthew, I have your email from other comments you've written in. So I'll send you and copy Elizabeth and Leroy. They're both still involved, right?
They are, yeah. And Shannon is our point of contact at the Board of Ed. And yeah, we have a couple of other members still on as well. And we are definitely looking for as many members and volunteers from the community as we can get. So whatever you guys can do to help spread that word too. But yeah, I'll try not to go into too many details around that now, because I don't want to, especially as a newer member, I don't want to speak for the more senior members or the whole committee, but I know we definitely look forward to coordinating and helping to work together as much as we can.
Okay, great. And if you have an opportunity, maybe you can just say that you were, listening in with us. And that we want to fairly quickly try to set up some kind of protocols to coordinate with Allison and the effort that from the town side. So obviously, so the message is
Yeah.
consistent
Yeah.
and clear.
Yeah, I'll definitely let them know. And I know Elizabeth has been in pretty close contact with Allison as well. So I'll pass that along.
And I don't need to be in the middle of that if you guys are already feel like you can, run with it.
Great. Yeah, we appreciate your support and leadership on the project before, and happy to coordinate going forward.
Yeah, I think the three things we've talked about that are opportunities, Matthew, specifically is Summerfest coordination. If we're gonna do a one pager back and forth in the tax bill, that could also be used at Summerfest, and then the insert for October.
Yep.
How do we want to collaborate, or is it an article versus insert? I think those are three real opportunities to make
Yep.
sure that we're collaborating on content to go out. So hopefully, if that's not already on the committee's radar, which knowing Leroy and Elizabeth, it already is, then they've already thought of it. How can we help?
Yeah, no, hearing you guys talk about those are exciting opportunities, and I know that there's a certain timeliness to it. So I'll make sure to double check to make sure they're aware of those things, and if not, or either way, just to connect with Allison to make sure that we're aligned and on time for what we need to do to meet deadlines.
Great.
Great.
Okay, so I think I will back up from what I was saying, and if you're already talking with them and.
I hadn't talked to them about the insert. I'm glad that came up tonight. And same with the tax bill. That's a good reminder. So I think us talking about the school project in this meeting also is helpful for me to make sure I'm connecting those dots between the two.
Great,
Like
okay.
working with each of you. So yeah, I think it's important.
What April and I had talked about, Larry, is like the focus for the committee was support the school, support the survey. I think the third thing maybe over the rest of this council might be the growth thing, and like how do we want to help with growth communication. So I think those are like, just to keep it simple for the rest of the year, because those are going to be big enough things to tackle. Like that might be for future agendas, how you may want to think about how we have those conversations so that we're like making sure we're keeping on track for growth, survey, and the school.
And is it still right that you're trying to finalize the survey by the August meeting?
I
Yeah.
think-
And
okay.
we'll talk about that, right?
Okay,
Mhm.
That's everything I have for staff updates.
All right, so next is Counselor Corner Live debrief. So Larry, you want to share your thoughts?
on Council Corner Live.
Yeah,
I think that was exactly what I was expecting based on the community feedback we received the week or so in advance of it. I think it worked out well. It was a little bit of a rough start, and in fairness, there was a level of frustration in the room that drove that push to say, just let us be heard. I think you and April did a fantastic job of, even though they were kind of saying the community was saying, we want to make sure you hear this. Somebody had to moderate it. Somebody had to answer, and I am empathetic to the feeling that if somebody is putting forward incorrect information, just in me that I want to say, well, wait, you, and not so much like you haven't thought about it this way, but can I just help you with the facts?
yeah.
And but I think in the end it was very productive. But like I said, the level of frustration in the room didn't surprise me.
I agree. Yeah, I think as we do these, April's much more informal about them than I am, which I like the informality of it, but I would like us to like do some things, like simple things, like we should have a sign-in sheet, so that way we know who came. We follow up with people afterwards. Like if we're making growth stuff, we would essentially have a list where we can say, you all came to this, so you care about it. We're gonna give you a special email with some stuff that you would have gotten in the newsletter, but we want to make sure you got it personally. So I think it would be good to have a sign-in sheet, just so that we could keep track of people who are there. We forgot to do the survey. April did bring the
Okay.
copies of the survey. I think we just forgot to do
Yeah.
the survey. Sometimes we do a survey afterwards.
Like an evaluation.
Yeah, to understand like how they felt, so that we can get that feedback, not on the topic, but on like how did the time work for you? Like,
Yeah,
did you like this format? What would have made it better? Sometimes we get some good insights from, especially the people who, because we had a lot of people there who didn't speak and were observing, listening, and some might have said, you know, they weren't uncomfortable with it just being a big room like that. Like they maybe wanted a one-on-one, or, you know what I mean? Like, we'll
Right.
get some of that insight.
so when you did that, that was a printed thing you
Mhm.
handed them to turn in that night?
Yeah, we like had them at the end and would ask them to complete it. So we've done that maybe once, I think, and I think we should try to do it. Again, I think we forgot, because this was the first one we've done probably in like 8 months. So we haven't done them. Initially, we were on a schedule of doing them, I want to say every other month. Or once a quarter, and then things just kind of paused. So I think it would be great to get back onto like a predictable cadence. Like we've always said, it's gonna be the third week on Thursday at 6 at public safety. Like that was something we've always tried to stick to, so that way people know. But it'd be good to get a recommitment that we're gonna do these once a quarter or every other month.
Do you, when you were doing them more often, did you struggle for content at all?
No, I felt like we've always they've always been kind of broad. It's been like, let's talk about the school.
Yeah.
Let's talk about conservation. Let's talk about growth was our very first one. Let's talk about traffic was one. So I think even if we just recycle them, because they're still the same
That's true.
things, like, I think people want to be able to sit with us, and sometimes the topic gives it structure, but what we've noticed is it has to be a topic that people care about, otherwise they don't show up. Like, they don't show up to our
That
budget
was my
ones.
point, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
our budget ones, which you would think people would come to, which aren't really Counselor Corner, but they are kind of like that. They're just open-ended roundtables where we're there to talk about the budget. And we look to people to show up and ask questions and just have a conversation, but people don't come to those for some reason, because I think it's.
I went to
Budget.
that this year.
Yeah.
And was very surprised how few people, given that you would think that
Yeah.
would be something that they're very interested in. You hear a lot of comment in general
Yeah.
about the finances of the town, so. But I absolutely, and if people started to feel like they were getting good information or they were making progress. On, or the voice was heard, I think some of the people would come back again, and maybe you'd be able to build, we would be
Yeah.
able to build from there.
It might be an opportunity, again, another partnership opportunity for the school to say it's a Counselor Corner Live about the school.
Mhm.
Only because I think we've branded it and the community knows that Counselor Corner Live is a thing. So even though the school could obviously do their own forum like you guys have done, if it's Counselor Corner Live, it might just get different people to show up that wouldn't have come otherwise.
Yeah, I think that, the survey, it may be a way that reinforces that it was valuable to them or informative to them, you know, just. So whether you do that or people even take it home, that. Maybe we make that where, so they weren't comfortable speaking. We definitely saw this even within our committee for SBAC, is that. Not everybody's comfortable talking in front of a big group. And so if they had the ability then to, like, I don't know how you would do it, but that where give us your follow-up questions from tonight.
Yeah.
You know, and then the people who do want some piece of information, if the crowd really wants to be heard and we're not putting forward information,
Yeah.
if there was a way that they attended that Council Corner Live, and now send us your follow-up and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know, I think yeah, it'd be nice to have either in the survey, a question of what questions do you have that you didn't get answered? And then you can even ask, like, do you want a personal contact by a counselor, or do you want just an email update? Again, just to kind of keep that engagement going. Cause I agree with you, I think some of the feedback that I heard from some people after the meeting was they actually did want to hear more information from the counselors and were a little disappointed that we didn't give out more information. And so, you know, for that person, they didn't leave with what they wanted. And so is there a way to follow up? In that instant, that's like one example, but there may be others.
And again, I think it's really hard and first I want to overwhelm Allison, but I don't want to overwhelm us either from a standpoint. There is some kind of connection to be made where that was a very vocal, passionate group. And the outcome of the vote last night was to their point. And you'd like to kind of connect those dots that we listened to what you were saying and, you know, it won't always go that way, but, but somehow to connect in there that, you know, it was surprising to me last night at the town council meeting that there weren't more people there to reiterate the points they were making the night before.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too, but part of me was wondering, did they get out what they wanted? And so they didn't feel they need to show up because they were heard.
Yeah.
Which again, maybe that's a model, right? Like maybe it's before big decisions and notes on the agenda. We say, we think this is a topic the community has a lot of concern, care, interest in. We can do a Counselor Corner live a week before. And just make sure that they have more ample time to have a conversation with us as opposed to just at the meeting.
I really like that, because the complaints that I've heard is that if I'm going to make public comment on an issue that you're gonna vote on in half an hour, that have you really had any time to take in what my opinion is, or how does that inform your vote?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think that's where maybe and especially at the committee level too, because like at ordinance and others, they talk about some pretty heavy stuff. So like when they were doing short-term rentals, I know there was a whole bunch of public outreach. But I guess if that moved past and got to council, that's a good example of, if we know it's coming, we should probably schedule a Counselor Corner live on it before it's at us for first reading, so you have more time to like digest the public feedback.
And it reaches more people who maybe weren't following along earlier, but.
Yeah, because typically what happens is people don't know until it's on our agenda.
Right.
And then they don't email us until after we've had first reading. And then maybe they come for second reading or the public hearing, maybe they don't. But if we can like say, we think this is a topic that merits Counselor Corner live, because we just want to hear what you think about this before we vote on it on your behalf.
I really like that. All right, the articles,
I think you were up next. Because you're,
That's right,
Yeah,
we
I
have
think
to
we
do
said-
your introduction.
yeah, we
Yeah.
said whoever got elected, they would do the August 1st one. So that way, it's like your opportunity to introduce yourself to the community and your excitement, so I think that. You would be the first one up, and then after that, I thought we were going back to like. The normal rotation. But Karen, I think Karen didn't write one.
Missed hers, for July 1, so we could get her back in the rotation for the 15th.
That might be good. And then after that, we typically just kind of. Have a standard rotation, Larry, but. Again, if there's something that we feel like is important that we need to write about, I think it's always. This committee is sometimes looked to like. If there's something to write about, we can write about it, and typically for Counselor Corners. While they're opinion pieces, you know, there's been different philosophies of like, well, what do we really want these to be? Do we want them to be like informational? Or do they want it to be an opinion piece where like, you know, what I think would actually be an interesting opinion piece that we could say, if we want to focus on growth is, when we have each counselor do their next article, write your opinion on growth and what you think needs to happen.
April did that a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
That was a very good one.
Yeah, it's very compelling.
Yeah,
So I think if everybody, I mean, it could be, we want the theme for the next round to be just share your perspective on the growth of Scarborough and your concerns, what you like, what you. It just gives them something to consider as they write their article.
Allison, what's the usual word count on that?
A page, like 1 page Word doc, I don't know
Okay.
how many words, but yeah. And then, John, you've written some, going to back to the informational ones, like I will like search TIFs or CEAs in the search function on our website, and a lot of times your articles come up, so it's a good time too to offer some refreshers on just educational awareness around certain things like that.
Yeah. So Larry, Karen, and then does it start back?
I can't remember, but yeah, September 1.
Yeah. I mean, I can plan to do the September one just so that we have the next round.
Okay,
So that's September 1st. That's typically what we do. We just think about what's the order for this agenda item, who's gonna write it, and then Allison does the reminders the week before it's due.
it's usually the chair that does them,
Okay,
if you're up for
Okay,
that,
yep.
okay.
So if you can kind of send me the list, I'll put it into my calendar for.
Okay.
That, yeah, no judgment, but does everybody participate?
I think. Sometimes they forget, I think that's the thing, like, that's where the reminders are really important. I would say April, I mean, Bill did one. Yeah, everybody for the most part is a good participator.
The chair also used to send the council corner article to the leader, that was kind of like in the, like how it went, but now that the leader. And now it's like every other week and it's online, so I'm happy to just roll that into the rotation, so if you're.
Great,
If you're sending the reminders to the counselors, and then, yeah, just frees me up, I'll focus on the keeping track of what newsletter and what leader goes into.
All right, so then why don't, if you send me the rotation,
Yeah,
I'll make a calendar from that. We can
Okay.
do that just as easily as well. Maybe we could send that to everybody now and then do reminders as we get closer.
that sounds good,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, anything else on Counselor Corner? No, next is the survey. So Larry, I don't know if did you participate at all in the surveys the past 4 years?
Yes,
Okay,
but only one, I think, and but I haven't actually, other than these staff changes right here, I don't think I have the original
okay.
document.
So just a couple of things about this. So this is the third time we're using the same vendor.
Yep.
And one of the things about their survey, like a lot of these questions in here are their questions that they ask across municipalities. So that way, one of the reasons why we chose this vendor was because not only do we know how we're doing, but we know how we're doing relative to other communities on key areas. So a lot of these are benchmark questions, but that doesn't mean we can't add custom questions and things like that. So I think what we were asking before from staff and our committees was, are there other questions that we want to add to get information? And I think that's what we got, was the feedback that people provided. But a lot of what we have is kind of the standard, like boilerplate, what they do so that we can compare ourselves.
And for a number of these, are they the same as what we've asked in the past, so we can also track
Mhm.
improvement here?
Yeah.
It's probably like 80 to 90% of them
Right.
are trackable. 1 year, when we first did this, we asked about capital project priorities. And then last time we did it, we spent more time on trying to dig into growth.
This question 12,
Yeah, to really understand what the concerns were that people had about growth, to use that to help drive policy that we might wanna do. And so that's still in here, so again, same question could be asked again.
We also have wiggle room to, if either add questions or we could take this one out if we wanted to, but, doing things that are more relevant to this year or something else that we wanna find out.
I think the growth is still relevant to get feedback.
And then there's a few areas that seem like easier to edit, like asking about how do you get your information, take out Scarborough Leader, like there's quick edits like that, but then also looking at a bigger picture of like and the library, I think, has new questions that they want to ask. They had some about the library expansion project last time, I think. COVID was one that was asked early on that we can start taking out now. But Liam shared it out with staff and committees to get some other feedback. So that's why he's been compiling them into here, and it is opening up like what are some other types of questions that we could add. Someone suggested economic habits, senior housing. Oh, that was just a quick edit, but there's a few things that we should go through and kind of dive deeper if we want to take this opportunity to add new questions. There's room to do it.
Has anybody talked about survey fatigue? Only that the school people probably
Did 2 rounds on it.
used up some of your.
Yeah.
But I'm not suggesting at all we change the timing. As a matter of fact, is this the same timing in the previous years that it's been done?
I think the plan is for this to go out in September. right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this would be earlier than it's gone out the past 2 times that it's gone, in a way so the goal is to get it out by September 1, so that you would all have the information, the new council would have the information by November when the new council comes in, and then, it's available for the goal setting workshop in January. Whereas I think in the past couple times, it's been later than that, maybe even like in January.
And we talked about extending it to allow for because essentially what happens is. And maybe what's gonna mitigate some of the survey fatigue is they do a random sampling. And
Mm,
send surveys to the random sample to get them to try and complete the survey first, and that's our statistically valid
okay,
sample.
yeah,
And once we hit like 600, typically, we kind of say, okay, we have what we need there. And then we open it up broadly to the rest of the community.
okay,
Or we can, I think we can do it both ways. And then what we talked about was to try and wait for the election before we close that other part. Just so that we can use the tabling at the election as like one final way to kind of say, hey, don't
mm,
forget to take the survey, we want your feedback.
yeah,
When people are already showing up to vote and thinking about things, so. I think hopefully and they will push out and wait until they get the 600, I think, that they need before they post the survey, so. To your point, maybe it might take a little bit longer because people might be like another survey, and it's a pretty long survey, it's not very short. But
that was the objection we were getting as well.
Yeah.
And although the one we had also asked for written feedback, you
Yeah.
know, which people don't wanna put the
Mhm.
time into it.
Yeah.
But I was just kind of curious if
Yeah.
in the past you've seen that, but John, to your point, I forgot kind of about the statistical
Yeah.
threshold, and so it's not as difficult as far as getting your return.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we want ideally, everybody would participate in the survey. But in order to get the results, we need to understand how the community generally feels that 600 is the target. And what's always interesting is they will give us the report of the statistically valid sample, and then they'll give us, and here's the data from the other residents, and they're always very, very close. So there's not a lot of differences once it's open more broadly. There's some nuances. The one thing we talked about adding was dog questions
mhm.
Yeah,
on the beaches. And so, again, I don't think we have to draft. Like, it's not I don't think we need to draft the questions, I think. Here's an example of what questions could be, and then when you guys work with the survey vendor, you might have a better way to word these, or,
I think we should try to draft them at least, and then maybe they would suggest, or we draft the question and they pose like how it should be structured and what type of
Yeah.
answers to have.
yeah.
So this came from staff?
I
Did
think
you
I
write
wrote,
this?
I wrote
Okay.
this one.
And then this came from the library, and
Okay.
yeah, these were, I can't remember, maybe
Committee.
it's
So-
autumn or, yeah, long range planning, we need to add their feedback. I added some, I don't know if this makes sense, but I was trying to think if there could be a question around like behaviors of like in town, like how much do you do this, how often do you go here, or do you attend this, or do you attend a council meeting, like what did in the past year? So those are some thoughts I had, and then also I want to expand more on getting some newsletter feedback about like how the frequency of it, and if you read it, and if you don't read it, is it because you haven't heard about it or for some other reason? But if there's some other questions that we really just want to get an answer to, rather than like tracking trends or satisfaction, but something to get more of a clear, statistically valid answer on, we should start brainstorming what
there-
those are.
Kind of on your. I know we asked the question about how do you get your information? Is there a way to ask a question of like, how would you prefer to be engaged on town? Maybe it's the same, maybe we're already asking the same thing. I'm just wondering, like, do they want?
Yeah, because we have an information question, but not as much about like engagement.
Yeah,
So how do we
I don't
ask
know
for
how to
that?
think. I'm just thinking, so that. Do they wanna see us come out to their neighborhoods and talk to them, or do they? Wanna see more things on social media from us, or, cause not everybody has like a Facebook account or something, so like. What do they want? What do they think is the best way for them to be engaged, especially with the loss of the leader? Like, I
Okay.
think that's a big thing. It's like. Now that the leader's gone, what do you feel like would be the best way for you to stay informed? Or how do you prefer to be informed on what's going on in town?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the informed question is already kind of in there, but the engagement one, like that would be helpful of like you were talking about. Sometimes Council Corner Live has a big attendance, other times it's like the budget, like no one's really involved, but like what are the reasons? Is it because of the topic? Is it because of like the time of the year, you're busy, or what is it? So I'll give some thought too into what we're trying to ask.
Yeah,
So Allison, I have this. Can you send me the existing version?
I will, yeah, we have a findings report summary on our website, and I'll send you that, which is this big document. Yesterday I did,
I just mean that this proposed survey draft right now. Or is this, are these comments part of that?
that's just part of it, and we
Okay.
need to, that's kind of what we need to do next, if we don't have a proposed survey draft. We have the one that was sent out last year. I copied and pasted in here all the questions from last year. And I started,
Okay,
adding.
maybe I have this.
Yeah,
I mean, it came.
and I just did this
One of the docs for
yesterday.
this meeting, right? Wasn't it part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I think Liam sent it out,
Yeah.
like Google Doc.
Yeah.
So I just copied and pasted the 2023 survey, and I was like adding in my own comments, but yeah, I think it would be good if we all kind of just like went through each question and. Do we still want that question in there? And I think for the most part, yes, but if there's some like little wording changes, or then the next step is kind of going through that staff feedback and seeing how that fits in, like, is that a new question, or is that in place of another one? So
and the
yeah.
goal is for us in our August meeting to finalize the survey.
I think that's what we need to determine now, I guess, like,
Yeah.
if, what do we want, how do we want to use the August meeting? Are we trying to have a draft? An almost final draft back from Jason from the survey company, or?
Is it this committee that's deciding that final,
Yeah,
like without, so we'll take the staff input. Some probably preferences by our team, and then. That would be what goes to the survey company.
yeah,
Okay.
and so I can Liam and I can be doing like the work between now and then, obviously, of kind of moving things around, but I think council committee input on this document to kind of help steer the direction, and then helping us determine a timeline of like, how do we want to use the August meeting, and what are our like what's the deadline that we're trying to hit?
So I think it would be good if we could commit to like by the end of July. All have gone in this and offered comments. If you guys could try and rationalize the feedback that came from different people and like try and build it in here. As like your guys' way
Yeah.
of trying to like add to it.
So then we kind of have like a working draft happening in here.
Mhm.
Yeah, because that gives us 2 weeks to do that, and then we could get it out to Jason. In maybe like the first week in August, and give him that next week or so to give us back a draft. That we can have to look at for the August committee meeting.
Yeah.
And Liam did say today too, maybe we need another like working meeting.
Yeah.
Of our committee in August, just to make sure we're not running short on
Yeah.
time.
I mean, I'm fine. Larry, if you're okay with it, with staff just kind of putting together a schedule and telling us where we should be and when, and trying to accommodate. Get this out on the schedule that you guys want to get it out on.
Yeah, and making sure we really take the time to go through it and use this opportunity if there's anything that we want to change or add.
I agree. I think if we tried to do what you just said in the August meeting, we wouldn't get it
Yeah.
done.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I guess it's gonna take some work between now and then to get it to that point.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of using the end of July as our kind of goal for us all to go in.
How far out do we have meetings already scheduled?
Monthly.
But is it, whatever, this is the second Thursday of every month or something, or is it just?
It's typically been the third Thursday.
So there's no need that we don't have to build that any more formally than that, it just shows up automatically on the,
Mhm.
okay,
Unless you wanna change it as chair,
no,
and you can have a workshop anytime in between meetings.
okay. That's Allison, I think that's whether that, I think, to what John said, I think if we get out something that's a draft kind of,
Yeah,
that people can work on it on their own time
Mhm.
and then be prepared for after. So if you guys get it for the end of July,
mhm.
do we wanna, if everybody's contributed something to that and you send it to the survey company at the end of July,
Mhm.
then do we wanna do anything before the August committee meeting? Or is that where then we would take I'm assuming the survey company will kind of punch it up into their format.
Yeah.
And then is that enough to just approve I think there might be another round of comments on the actual questions to be
Yeah.
included. I don't mean every one of them, there's a lot that,
Yeah.
are, like you said, 90% we've done before, but.
Mhm.
I think it's a matter of, do we want to take this document and the work that is involved in going through it all? Do we want to take it offline and each do it individually, or do we want to like go through the questions and like talk about different comments that we had on them? And make changes in real time? And I'm good with either, but if we're doing kind of a working thing, that might require another
Yeah,
meeting.
it might be to your point, like, if we all commit to. Review at comments, edit, whatever, by the 31st. We may need to review to rationalize them.
Yeah, because then we need to
Change
make
them.
decisions based on
Yeah.
those comments.
So it might be good for us to meet the first week of August.
Right,
Right,
We're
yeah,
available,
yeah,
and then,
and then from that is what we send to.
Yeah.
ETC.
I think I have something that I'm pretty sure I do, but if we could do it virtually too.
Yeah, and maybe it doesn't need to take that long, but just to make sure we're all on the same page.
In the past, we've asked council if they have things they wanna add, I don't know. Do we wait for that until after we get the JSON version and say,
Mhm.
this is your last chance? Last time we did it, nobody had any comments, so I don't. Know if people will, but,
Does the council need to formally
I
do
wanna,
anything with it?
I wanna say the first time we did it, it came to council. For approval, I don't remember if it did it
Okay.
last time. That might be something you can check with Leanne where. Again, it could be on our September 1st agenda to bless it. If that doesn't mess with the timeline at all.
If we add a workshop first week in July, just mechanically, how does, sorry, August, is that something I just get to Katie with and
I can do
figure out
that,
a
right?
date?
I can do this, when we're done the meeting, I can do that with you.
Okay,
And I would be flexible if we did something. As long as I know in advance, I could do it during the work day, so if like you want to do it at 9 o'clock or
Mhm.
something. I can be more flexible, Larry, I don't know how your work schedule's like, but.
I'm pretty good, I'm retired.
Okay, well then, if you wanna do it during the day, I know it's easier for staff.
Oh, right, yeah,
Yeah, so I can be flexible if you guys wanna try and do it. Scott might not be as flexible though, so. I might have to check. with
yeah,
him.
I would do it around you guys, I mean,
Okay.
and obviously. For Allison, it would be during the day, I think, and. So we'll just maybe pick a time and get some feedback if we
Yeah.
need to change it, and then the, for a workshop, is there also get an agenda out 3 days in advance and a week, okay.
But you don't need public comment, you don't need approval of minutes, you wouldn't do any of that stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful, just for us all to be able to like talk through these things too, and we'll have all looked at it at that point, so.
So, anything
Okay.
else on the survey?
well,
Future agenda items, anything that you guys wanna? I think Larry, for you, it's probably, now that you've had your first one again. The structure we've typically had. It is like in here, staff updates, counselor corner article, alignment. And then it's really up to you what you would wanna put in there in terms of agenda items, so.
okay. All
But
right,
those are kind of standing items, I think, that we've been doing.
all right, I'd probably. Maybe work with you, Allison, for those future agenda items and. And so I don't know enough right now to say for today what we would add,
Yeah.
but why don't we try to. In a couple of weeks, figure out what we would do for the next meeting.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
we'll have
sure.
updates on some of these other things as well.
Yeah. Just based on our conversation today, it seems like the school building project has come up a lot, so, and I know you've been talking about how. When it come August, we should be ramping up,
Mhm.
so. I could see that being a future agenda item, just making sure we have that as like a standing thing through November.
Yeah. And part of that to me would be, some feedback on that coordination with the other committees.
Yeah,
You know, and maybe formalizing that a little bit.
yeah, I
Um,
think that would be helpful.
Mhm.
So, other than that, I have one last thing. Last night, there was a woman at the council meeting who was telling us about Honor Flight, which
Mhm.
is, it's nationwide now, but they fly veterans to Washington DC, for free. You know, they pay for a 3-day trip and everything. And I know a few people have done this, not from Maine, but from other areas. And it's pretty amazing. And I didn't know if, that was something that I don't know how we tie this into maybe a newsletter. The other thing she's doing is she's renaming, she works all over honoring vets, renaming local bridges for them with a plaque and all. And there's one being done in Scarborough. I don't know, did she say when it would actually, when the ceremony was for it? But I just thought it could be something that we highlight in the newsletter.
Great. Yeah, I think Liam sent me some photos from that last night.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
there's good. Good
I think-
opportunity to share about it.
If there's any, like, sometimes. What we talk about is like for the upcoming newsletter, is there any topics that are important for Allison just to think of as she works on it, so. I mean, I think. for the 15th one, which I think we've done before. Like anything on TIFs, because we'll be voting,
Hmm,
or I think we just have a public hearing
okay,
on for our August meeting on the TIF thing. So there's still a lot of questions about what a TIF is.
okay,
Public hearing does not happen the same night as the second reading.
I don't think it does for this. I
Okay.
think the plan was first read by itself, public hearing by itself, second read
Okay,
by itself. So I think second read for the TIF will be in September. So it's just a
Okay.
good opportunity, because
Yeah.
if people are coming to public hearing and they want to talk about the TIF, well, the newsletter goes out right before that, so hopefully. They can read a little bit more about the TIF. With school second reading, or it'll be a school public hearing, and I know the school always does an article, so it's not, that's not new. If there's anything else, Larry, that you think is top of mind, based on a lot of your. Talking during campaigning, that might be a good article.
well, for Counselor Corner, I think that article, I think I want to talk about the, and I know every one of you have done this, but the importance of getting involved
Yeah.
for the community. And the angle I was looking to take with that is to point out a couple of the recent issues that have generated large feedback from the community, the dogs issue, the rental issue, the one last night. And to my point earlier is that the town and the council listened to that feedback, and the outcome was, you know, certainly influenced by that. So it shows that if you can be involved and you can get informed, that we do listen, you
Yeah.
know, so.
That's great.
Okay, and then Allison, I'll probably give you a call to try to get, just from today, or maybe even come in again with you and just kind of get a cadence for, what you need from me.
okay,
And, how, you know, we could go forward, somewhat
Great, yeah.
standard structure for what we're doing.
sounds good, and I have some notes of things I owe you too.
No, okay.
And you're lucky, because Allison and us.
It seems that way already.
Yeah,
So I'm very disappointed running my first meeting and we're late.
this was a good
There's a lot
agenda
to
though.
talk about.
Yeah,
But is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.